The sports world has never known a scandal like the one that befell Penn State in November of 2011. In a matter of hours, the program was transformed from gold standard to pariah. The statue of their leader was taken down and hauled away. But in the years that have passed since the scandal, part of their path forward has been to look back at their own past and say, we have been a beacon before. We can be again.
Well, there's a great tradition at Penn State. Every class gives a gift. And the class of 2013 decided that they wanted this.
We all had decided that we needed to make a statement with our gift.
How do we create something that is original with something that people have been saying for a very long time?
We are!
What's your concept of we are? You want to create something that's open, that combines with every person's imagination.
As the sculptor Jonathan Kramer began researching the roots and meaning of We Are, it led him deep into Penn State's history.
I loved doing my research, and I would come across articles about Wally Triplett and about this incredible decision.
Let's begin with the fact that I was born 1926 in suburban Philadelphia. America was black and white, and we were in the middle of it then. From my oldest brother right down to me, everybody played football. I had a very unusually good year in 1944. That's when all the schools came with the letters. Mr. Triplett, I'm writing to inquire about your availability for an athletic scholarship at the University of Miami.
Miami had tried to recruit Wally fresh out of high school. Recruiting isn't done like it is today. I mean, there was a difference between really the Stone Age back then. Miami, not only the university segregated, the city was segregated. And he has to write back and say, you realize I'm a black player?
They thought I was white. I informed them that I wasn't in a very caustic way. Do not be bitter against a group of people that have nothing to do with the present conditions.
When they learned that Wally was black, Miami immediately rescinded their scholarship offer.
I was then given the opportunity, and I took it to go to Penn State.
You know, you have these young men coming in after the war, and you have two black players on that team. You have Wally Triplett and Denny Hoggart.
There are only about 25 to 35 black students on the whole campus. So the 46 team gets together, and they see a game scheduled for Miami at the end of the season. And they said the only way the game's going to be played is if Penn State leaves its two black players at home.
And so they wind up having a players-only meeting about this. Do they boycott this game? Do they leave the two black players behind?
The meeting took place in a small room on the Penn State campus. It was 1946, almost 10 years before Rosa Parks, almost 20 years before I Have a Dream. This was simply a small group of students in the middle of Pennsylvania looking at the faces of their two black teammates.
And in the midst of that meeting, you have the captain of the team, Steve Suide, say, basically, we are Penn State, it's all or none.
We're going to vote this unanimously, and all the hands went up. We're not going to play the game without our players, and Miami says, sorry, you're not coming.
We're all together, we're all one. That became our creed. It's a definitive term. You're letting the world know, or whoever it is you're opposing, that this is it.
So that set the tone. Now, the 46 team had a decent year. They come out in 47, and they became a great team.
We did not lose, we did not tie. It was one of the greatest defensive teams there was.
Penn State winds up going to the Cotton Bowl in Dallas.
But Dallas is segregated, so they couldn't stay in Dallas.
They wind up staying on a naval base because that's the only place that black players are welcome.
When we arrived at the train station, they used the word as well as you could hear it.
He had the strength to rise to the occasion. And who scored the touchdown? Tied the game? Wally Triplett.
The next year, Wally Triplett would become the first black player ever drafted into the NFL.
When I learned about that, it inspired me because they had the strength to do that. It gave me that strength. Polishing is almost a lost art. This sculpture was polished by hand. You could see these little inflections, these little human marks in it.
Not only is it larger than life, we are a very physical representation of the words that we say, but being able to see yourself in it, in that reflection.
Yeah! Yeah!
The statue arrived on campus almost 4 years after the scandal. Within sight of the football stadium, it is at the same time literal and abstract, forcing those who come here to confront it to find their own meaning in its reflective surface and to see themselves in this critical moment in Penn State's evolution. And with a statue finally in place after 2 years of planning and design, Penn State invited one more guest back to campus. He had not been to Happy Valley in years, but he was greeted like a hero.
We are.
Penn State!
We are.
Penn State! There we go, there we go.
Just those few words. There's always that case where it's just a couple of words, and you say to somebody with pride, we are Penn State.